What are the current zoning restrictions in Seattle today as they are March 2024? What are the current zones, and are you utilizing exactly what you have to its fullest capacity? Or do you want to? Maybe you don't want to utilize that. And in part 3, we are going to talk about how this changes with One Seattle plan, what the zoning is going to go from now all the way to the future if this plan is approved. So stay tuned for part 3. Let's talk about what the zoning restrictions are right now. So today, Seattle has 4 neighborhood residential zones: NR1, NR2, NR3, and RSL, residential small lot. So NR stands for neighborhood residential. These are all zones that currently exist. This is updated as of March 2024. So this shows you today what the residential existing neighborhoods are. So let's go through what these residential neighborhoods are. There is a minimum land area required to create a new lot size in Seattle. For NR1, that's 9,600 square feet, NR2, 7,200, NR3, 5,000, and RSL, 2,000 square feet. So you can see that NR1 is obviously the largest lots. The number of homes that are allowed to sit on a site for NR1 through 3 is 1 principal dwelling. So one, you can think about that as a single family home, and 2 accessory dwelling units per lot. That could be an attached additional dwelling unit, an AADU, or a detached additional dwelling unit, DADU. And then for RSL, it's 1 principal unit and 1 ADU per 2,000 square foot of lot area. So if you had a 4,000 square foot lot, you could have 1 principal unit, 1 ADU, and probably a second ADU. But if it were only 2,000 square feet, you would only have 1 principal unit and 1 ADU is how I read them. Now, the effective maximum density is what can be done at a minimum lot size, principal units and ADUs on that lot size. So for NR1, it's 1 unit per 3,200 square feet of lot area. For NR2, it's 1 unit per 2,400 square feet of lot area. For NR3, it's 1 unit per 1,667 square feet of lot area. And for RSL, it's 1 unit per 1,000 square feet of lot area, which makes sense because if you have 2,000, you can have that principal plus the ADU. So if you don't know what your lot is currently zoned, reach out to me. You can ask me, I can look it up, but you can also look on the county records to figure that out. And this is really important to know because if you are a homeowner, let's say, and you own a lot that's zoned NR1 and you only have your primary home on it, you could actually build 2 other additional units on that lot to create passive income, to potentially sell off as condos, and we'll get to that in a second. So the floor area ratio, so the ratio of maximum building floor area to lot area. So basically what is the floor square footage divided by the lot size. So for a 5,000 square foot site, it would have to be 55% basically without any ADUs, or 75% with 1 ADU, or 95% with 2 ADUs. So if you have 2 ADUs, you could take up 95% of the lot. But if you only have 1 house, you can only take up 55% as a square footage of your home, the imprint on the lot. And for RSL, it's 75% of the lot. For NR1 through 3, the percentage of the lot that can be covered by structures is 35% if the lot is 5,000 square feet or larger. If it's less than 5,000 square feet, you can only cover 1,000 square feet of the lot plus 15% of the lot area otherwise. And then for RSL, you can cover 50% of the lot. Right now, as it stands, if you own a lot over 5,000 square feet that's zoned NR1 through 3, and you only have 1 home or 1 structure on that lot, you are more than likely able to create at least 1 more structure. And these are the guidelines that you would need to follow to do that. Your height limit, the maximum height limit, so from the ground to the highest point of the structure, so that's not the living point, that's the actual highest point of the structure outside, is 30 feet from the ground up, plus 5 feet if you have a pitched roof. So if your roof goes like this, you can add 5 feet, so 35 feet. RSL, 30 feet plus up to 5 feet. So these restrictions keep the height low. They keep the height low for these neighborhood residential development standards. I believe, I haven't looked at all of it, but I believe this is something that's going to change in the One Seattle plan. I know the number of units per lot is going to change. So, and then there's also the setback. So if you don't know what a setback is, there is a lot line that outlines your lot, and you have to build structures back from that lot line. This is called a setback. So for NR1 through 3, the average of adjacent buildings. So if your neighbor is built back 10 feet and your other neighbor is built back 8 feet, then you would have to be around 9 feet back. So the average of that, or 20 feet, whichever is less. So you have to keep that in mind, whichever is less. So you can go with a smaller one so you can actually get closer to the lot line, which allows you more building space. And then for RSL, that's 10 feet. Now the rear setback is 25 feet or 20% of the lot depth, whichever is less. So you'd have to take the depth of your lot from the front of the lot to the back, 20% of that depth. So times 0.20, whatever that is, or 25 feet, whichever is less. And then for RSL, it's 10 feet without an alley, none with an alley. So if you have an alley and you own RSL, you could theoretically build a garage right on that alley, no setback, and have an ADU above that if you have 2,000 square feet of lot there. So that goes back to how many square feet your lot is, right? And then the side setback for NR1 through 3 is 5 feet, and same for RSL, 5 feet. So what does this mean for you if you're a homeowner? This means that you may have the potential to utilize more of your lot if you want to build an additional dwelling unit or 2 additional dwelling units. You may be able to do that. Now, what is this going to mean for other people in the neighborhood? This might not be something you like, because as a homeowner in the area, there could be construction, there could be more housing coming available, there could be more renters, because ideally if you're living in one house, that house that you're building in the back or over the garage is probably going to be rented out to someone, or an Airbnb, something like that. So this could be detrimental to you if you live in one of these neighborhoods. And we're going to talk about how the One Seattle plan is going to change this, because it's going to bring even more housing to your neighborhood if you're in one of these zones that we talked about. Whether you are in the urban neighborhood, the neighborhood center, the urban center, or the regional center, you may be in for changes. You may have even more space to maximize. This also means that investors are more likely going to be willing to buy smaller lots with this proposed change, because they're going to be able to build even more housing in a smaller area. So what do you think? Is this a good thing for Seattle? Are we headed in the right direction to provide more housing, more density, and more walkability to people, more transit options? Or do you prefer having your space? Do you prefer having the residential lot? This is also why residential lots are going to become even more valuable than they are today, because they're going to be a place where development can be made. And I want to hear what you think about that. If you don't know anything about me, my name is Brendan Klaus. I'm your favorite Seattle area realtor. I left Microsoft years ago to start helping people one-on-one build wealth and invest in real estate. And it's something that I'm passionate about and I love helping people do. If you have questions about the zoning, about how you could utilize your lot, be sure to reach out to me. My contact info is below, and I can't wait to hear from you.